In 2008, the world experienced a global financial crisis. It said that 8 million people lost their jobs and 6 million people lost their homes in the USA alone. Major banks that you don't need to know the name of filed for bankruptcy, leaving the thousands to hundred thousands to maybe even millions I didn't love of people that they owed money to left in the dust, requiring immediate government intervention throughout the whole nation. Nobody was unaffected. All this because the housing market of America was found to be built on fraud after fraud after fraud, with America being the powerhouse of the economy and houses being one of the human fundamental needs. This wasn't just a problem the states had to deal with. The whole world felt the ripple of the American economical collapse. And it's largely because of one thing: the collateralized debt obligation, or rather, the CDO. And you're probably wondering, what the is a CDO? You're probably also wondering what this has to do with games, but hold on, because here's garage famous, barely employed Think to explain. Alright, and here's Nico too. Alright, so you know me. I like to work on random little gadgets and stuff, and I've been working on this TV, but I'm not selling it. So when it comes to buying things like TVs or arcade machines or cyborg parts, would you buy them from a junkyard? Of course not. The chance of it being broken is too high. It's not worth it. So I take that junk and put it together with other junk, repackage it, and then you get stuff like this. It looks good as new, right? The only issue is there's still mileage on these components. So for you, there is still a risk if you bought what I'm selling. But for me, that's a dub. It's like buying a car with a rebuilt title. And that, my friends, is a CDO. The CDOs were basically something that these companies handed out, pretending that they were a worthy investment, when in reality, it was a whole bunch of really bad bonds and mortgages and a whole bunch of other junk that were wrapped together and marketed as an investment that you can make of the highest quality. When in reality, it was filled with dozens and dozens of smaller, low quality, risky to buy bonds that the market would just never sell to you as is. FYI, this is a pretty complicated topic, so if I got something wrong, let me know. But at some point, the investments made for these CDOs couldn't be paid back by these companies. They just didn't have enough money. Because again, these high quality bonds were actually filled to the brim with risky, lottery ticket-esque bonds. And at that point in 2008, when everything was exposed, everybody lost. So how did this relate to the gaming industry? Well, why wouldn't a game studio want to make their best game? At a certain point in time, whether this be 2018 to 2020, who knows? A lot of game studios at the same time, it feels, changed. Bethesda, EA, Ubisoft, the COD companies, etc. They all started feeling a lot less like studios that were made of real people and more like Amazon. Nah, but for real though, to me, they felt more like a factor. Being young, all I wanted to do was make games. But all that really changed when I found out what really goes on in EA HQ. I felt like around the time, studios began thinking a lot more like, or more with, companies in mind. For a reason that could span from trying to keep the studio ambitious to trying to keep the studio afloat. But it seems like to function like a business, you need to think like a business, with profits in mind. Ubisoft's most profitable year was 2023. EA's most profitable year was 2024. Activision Blizzard's Black Ops 6 made them the most money out of any COD game. And that's their most recent game. And Take-Two, the parent company of 2K, their most profitable year was 2025. And the year ain't even over yet. And it's crazy too, because in these companies' prime, I would have been happy for them. And I was under the impression that these companies were actually struggling. But that's not really the case now, is it? If you think about it, there needs to be a constant stream of profits for any company to stay afloat. It could explain why they continue to drop a game every year to 2 years with the same questions. They don't want to, or maybe can't, spend a year making another game better, or adding more mechanics, or hammering out the story or world building, when they can just do what they did last year. It's crazy too, because looking at the new Assassin's Creed games or 2Ks or CODs, the new stuff they add doesn't really seem like a step
ahead of the stuff before, you know? They really seem like they, for the most part, could have been released on the same year at the same time, excluding like the graphics and stuff, of course. It's interesting because I think most of us really handsome gamers like you and me don't actually want these studios to rebuild their game from the ground up every release.
So what's the alternative? Because it seems like we're dealing with two extremes here.
Innovation is defined as an idea, method, or device that introduces something new or changes an existing product, idea, or field. Innovation can only come from taking the old stuff and adding quality to it. Little by little, maybe trading parts out, but the stuff that stays is usually sturdy, timeless, maybe even basic. Like, I think From Software is all about, for the most part, taking the basic framework of a Souls-like and adding seemingly small mechanical changes here and there that end up having rippling effects. I bet for the outside looking in, it's like, bro, they just keep on reskinning Dark Souls. Like, what are you talking about? And that's correct. You know, it does seem like that, but it isn't actually like that though. All right, peep. Souls-like mechanics are usually super simple if you think about it. Roll, light, heavy. And with that, you are actually supposed to like kill gods and stuff. But from what I played, it doesn't come off as a game that could have sold you a better combat system. I think what it's actually selling you is the relationship between your character's quote-unquote simple mechanics and its incredibly deep and detailed world building and quest lines and enemy type. If your character is simple, it's because everything else is complex and well thought out. This goes from enemy types to world design. If you really think about it, the lore of Bloodborne and Elden Ring and Dark Souls, you know, they're super deep and they're super rich, but it's never direct. Other games sell their story front and center because it's provocative and they probably spend a lot of time on it. Like, it makes sense. Stories are supposed to grab your attention and have you wanting more, right? But so is mystery. Alright, I got this online, but it says for Elden Ring, there are 119 unique enemy types with 425 variations. I don't even know what that means for real. To around 179 unique non-boss enemy classes. I don't even know what that means for real either, but
hold on, I kind of went on a bit of a tangent there. I forgot this video's not an hour long. But look, the reason why I think Souls-likes are one of my favorite genres is you can trust that the studio, or rather the genre, cares a lot about the environment and what is in it, and its relationship to you, the player. The more and more you play of these games, the more and more you see that it's innovation in the best places. The sturdy stuff stays, but everything that From Software is kind of released it's just stuff for like Dark Souls 2. We don't talk about that, but you know, they've innovated, right? Now they're held in high regard. The company now has a reputation of releasing quality game one after another. You could say they're on a pretty good streak. However, if it's a company's job to specifically sell copies, does that really matter?
yo, hand me that right quick. Never mind. It's one of these two, right? Okay. You know, the way you talk about like the gaming industry and stuff, I was starting to think at some point somebody was like, yo boss, I know we've been on crunch since I was hired, but I was thinking, hold up. You said you was thinking? Who told you to do all that? All the thoughts that have already been needed to been thought have been thought. Last year, with our last game, and the one before that. Like, bro, was you thinking of implementing a mechanic that would fit the world and the gameplay or something? Like, yeah. Well, don't. We got money. We got time. But we want more. We want more, Johnson. Just keep risking in the old game. And the story? Leave it to me. And I bet it happened just like that, too.
Good as the clay. Hard as the daisy, got stuck my foot in the pain. Yeah.
Alright, nah, look. So, in 2012, the 6th installment of the mainline Resident Evil series was released, and it said that immediately after its release and its criticism for its heavy action-oriented gameplay that, Resident Evil wasn't really known for, there were thoughts of Resident Evil returning to a horror-driven story right then and there. In 2014, they began development after 2 years of planning and working on other things like Revelations 2 and some other stuff, I guess. There, 120 people started marching through the 3-year development of RE7. And then in 2017, hold up. Let's bring it back a little. During the development of RE7, Capcom decided to get a team together to begin the cookage of the very well received, very well freaking made RE2 remake in 2015. And at another corner of Capcom, there was a team that began their development of the very well received, very well freaking made, can you guess? Devil May Cry 5. 3 years for RE7, 4 years for 2 Remake, and 4 for DMC5. All at the same time, with 2 Remake and Devil May Cry 5 specifically designed to release around the same time, the same year. Just a flex? I don't know, but here's what I'm getting at. Capcom 1,000,000,000% operated on a very risky and I bet money tight gamble to pull both Resident Evil and Devil May Cry out the jaws of irrelevancy, because we was getting peak from that run of 2012 to 2017, and they were barely a part of that. The thing is, Capcom, being as big as a company as it is, could operate this way because of its resources and its other games and other IPs, but not all companies can do that, especially if they're doing single player games with no microtransactions. Like, look at this. I bet the temptation was there when you've been cooking like 4 games at the same time. So why wouldn't a company want to make their best game? Well, it might be the same answer to the question of, if it's a company's job to specifically sell copies, does that really matter? U/Solidus on Reddit says, as companies grow, it becomes less and less worth it to take risks. Despite the developers who are sometimes really passionate about making games, breaking the mold could cost them the company. It's a bunch of baloney, really. If you think about it, there needs to be a constant stream of profits for any company to stay afloat. I mean, we all know this. But what does it mean? What does it mean for people that make games and people that play them? After the release of Baldur's Gate 3, there was talk that I heard from people in the industry talking about how Baldur's Gate 3 shouldn't set an unrealistic expectations for RPGs. And I thought, that's a whole bunch of buffoonery. To be honest, I feel like a game like Baldur's Gate 3 is a logical step forward from games like New Vegas or Bloodlines or Prey in the big 2025. But I thought about it a little, and I think the reason people that I bet are really cool game devs and people who probably love making games say that it's a standard that we shouldn't expect is not because of the game's mechanics and scale, but specifically the development process. This might be a tough pill to swallow, but game devs aren't just the people that make games now. It's companies. And Baldur's Gate 3 and Larian Studios seem to specifically have a company philosophy that is the exception for most other AAA video game companies that probably focus a lot more on profits. It will require a lot of reworking to change the profit funnel to make the games I bet that these devs really want to, with IPs that they might have even grown up playing. The title of the video probably has the word bad in it, but I actually don't think that the games that have been coming out recently are actually bad. Except for Mind's Eye. What the is that? I just think that they're holding back so much. It's frustrating. From corporations with the staff and resources to make games feel straight out of a movie, a novel, a dream. But they can't because of how messed up the money is nowadays. The unrealistic standard is probably about, like how I said earlier, it's a company's job to specifically make profits. And the game that I bet is envisioned needs to be shaved down to meet that quota. And I think that's why companies don't make their best games. Sorry, I lied. I don't have much proof.
So, if you are wondering what the 2008 financial crisis has to do with the world of gaming, let me lay it out for you. In 2008, the world experienced a global financial crisis, largely the fault of the CDO. Now, I'm gonna add a few things here, so stay with me, but the CDOs, or the collateralized debt obligations, were basically the Frankensteining of dozens of risky bonds, and these things caused subprime mortgages. You could just call them trash, really. And these types of bonds had a name. All of them did, or more like a ranking system. They usually fell into the ranks of either B, double B, or triple B bonds, with B's being the worst. Now, when the market deems these B's, double B's, and triple B's too risky to buy, what do you think they do with them, huh? Warehouse them on the books? Nah. They put these okay stories with microtransactions and a whole bunch of other subprime nonsense, and then they repackage it, and they'd often slap the highest quality sticker over it. Now, if B's and double B's and triple B bonds had all the bad stuff, just know that these very same B's, double B's, and triple B's were often repackaged and given a new rating, A, double A, and some as high as triple A status. Let that sink. Unfortunately, it seems that these companies vehemently believe that quality doesn't sell. Marketing does, bundles do, discounts do. And if quality did sell, like Resident Evil or From Software or these indie studios that you know and love, it would have to come at the cost of them restructuring their whole development system, brand identity, profit funnel, and they'd have to take the risk of spending more time and money. And since time is money, they're spending double money. They'd rather spend their money marketing you a quote-unquote triple A bond instead of making sure that its contents were worth your money. And that's how, at that point in 2008, everybody lost. Let's just hope it doesn't happen again. Right, guys? Yeah, all right. And cut. You know what I'm saying? You know how people used to be like, and cut. And scene. And all right, I'm done. No.
So basically, movies, games, shows, social media, almost anything that grabs attention can be profited off of just that. Attention. It's crazy. Maybe that's why they call it paying attention. Hold up. This is it. That's everything. Hold on, where'd I put the... Hold on. This took way too long. Ladies and gentlemen, the TV is fixed. Kinda. Oh, if you didn't know, the TV's been broke. That's why I haven't been in it. You ready, Nigo? Is the audience ready? Okay. Wait, don't click off yet, please. Don't do it, please. All right, this video, let's talk about it a little. All right, let's talk about it. Okay, so a couple of days ago, I said that this video would be out on the 29th. It is like 14 days after the 29th right now. Like, that's crazy, all right? But the reason why I said the 29th is because I had it basically done by that point. But I wanted to, like, I got so inspired to add some more stuff and, like, crank up the references. If you didn't know, this whole video is like a reference to the movie The Big Short. If you watch it, you're going to be like, oh, shoot, yeah, he really, yeah, either way. And I wanted to do more research, but there was a point in time where I realized I couldn't finish my research, so I could only just do this, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't want to prolong it any longer. So if you have any critiques or any, or any advice, let me know in the comments, please. I would really appreciate that. And sorry I've been late. It's been a minute since I've done one of these. Hold on. Yeah, I've been kind of like ducking the long videos because I've been intimidated by them, right? But most of the topics that I want to talk about, they end up being longer videos anyway. So it's like, why not just kind of just jump into it and see where it goes. Also, school's about to start back up for me. Some of y'all may be in school already now, so it's like, bro, y'all might, I don't know what's gonna go on with the channel, but I will try to continue posting once every 2 weeks. I said continue, but I haven't done that in like 8 months. But look,
Oh yeah, there's one more thing that I wanted to bring up. So I'm an idiot, like really bad, but I found out, I figured out a couple of, I think almost a month ago now, that the beats that I've been using, I mean, clearly they belong to people, right? But they were all, yo, you're gonna think I'm so stupid, but they were all under free, right? And I thought they were free without condition, but I found out that a good amount of them have conditions under them. So I have a playlist with every single beat that luckily that I've ever used in a video. They're in 2 playlists, but I'm gonna start linking them down below, and I'm gonna try to credit all the sources for all the videos and stuff like that. I'm not monetized, and I probably won't be for a good minute, so rest assured I'm not like making money off of y'all stuff. That would make me feel like pretty bad. But yeah, I started messaging some of the beat makers and stuff like that. My homie, bro, New Nova Beats, bro, yo, W Man's like, he's just so tough. Either way, check them out. These are the beats that I've been using in today's episode or today's video. It's not a TV show. I mean, yeah, it's something like that. But yeah, and y'all have a great day. Thank you for watching. And then, I was about to do the Jacksepticeye outro, but I don't remember what it was. Deuces.